Now, I see that there are so many questions being asked, so I will try to at least to extrapolate some of them. Okay, there are some questions in general, which when are you coming to work in Southeast Asia or in other countries? The point there is very simple. The program that we are promoting is demand driven. So if there are demands from countries and there is an interest from the government to apply RIMA and there are enough data, and all requests are very welcome. This year we concentrated essentially in Africa, in East and Western Africa, but our idea is that in 2017 we'll be moving to Central America and to Asia, to the most affected countries. Okay, let me ask you put together a couple of questions which are very much country oriented. No, people are asking, okay, what about West Africa? What about Mali? Do we have analysis on this? How you deal with community level information to be complemented with RIMA, and how you link your work with some of the regional process, like the process of Algeria. So, and then the last point, which I think is again very important, is how do national authorities participate in data collection? I think this question, in a way, summarizes some of the challenges that we are having. It's for Mali, but I think you can use it to explain a bit how we go about this. Hmm?
Yeah. So this is a very good question, which are also explaining many other things. I was muted. I apologize. And I also not putting on the video, which can be better. Now I put on the video. Okay. So I was saying thank you for this question, which is very much important and helps us answering and clarifying many important aspects. There are quite a large number of analyses ongoing in Africa, and in both areas, Sahel area and Horn of Africa, but there is also other things are happening in the Lesotho, in Lesotho. Therefore, just to mention some, we are doing analysis in this moment. We are doing analysis in Mauritania. We are doing analysis in Senegal. We are doing analysis in Kenya. We are doing analysis in Somalia. We are about to do analysis also in Uganda, and we are just started an analysis in Chad. And recently, in March this year, there was a workshop in Dakar where we drafted down a list of countries that are interested and that will be analyzed in the next future in this area. That is including Niger, Nigeria, is including Burkina Faso, is including Cameroon, and other countries, as well as in the Horn of Africa. There are ongoing projects in Sudan, South Sudan, in Uganda, in Kenya, and in Somalia. So we are trying to cover a large number of countries, and mostly these analyses are done at country level. So sometimes we try to support this analysis from HQ, but we are people in the field. We have people in Nairobi, we have people in Dakar that are learning how to do the analysis and are currently actually doing the analysis itself. How do we use community level data? Well, we use them in many ways. First, to inform and complement what we are doing with the household level data. Second, we are collecting data. We are starting collecting data at community level because this can reduce the household questions. So this can reduce the time for the interview. And we are integrating all the information that we can from community perspective into our household level analysis. There are quite a good number of community level indicators that we are trying to integrate in our resilience analysis. And if, for example, if I think about geographical variables, if you think about information on climatic shocks or on conflict shocks, for example, those are all at community level. There are a couple of databases that we are using for conflicts, for example, the ACLED database and the PRIOB database, which are collected at the community level and can be then integrated into our resilience analysis. And as always, I say, in this case, every idea, every suggestion is welcome. So sign up in the newsletter and send email to me personally if you want, and we are very much happy to further discuss this. How we integrate with the Agile and other regional initiatives. All our activities are strictly connected to the regional initiatives, in the sense that what we do is not based on what we decide to do here in Roma, but is correctly agreed with the regional initiatives. So again, in the example of the workshop in Dakar, all the major regional initiatives were there. We discussed it with them which countries are much important and where we have to go first and where we will go next. So all these initiatives are absolutely coordinated, and they are furthermore coordinated with the national institutions. When I say national institutions, I think about the example of what we are doing in Dakar and what we are doing so in Senegal and in Mauritania, where both National Bureau of Statistics, the Ministry of Agriculture, of Forestry, or other ministries that are interested are collaborating in the analysis. And sometimes they are also doing part of the analysis. So we can share the reports that we are doing, and we can try as much as we can, and as long as we have statisticians that are willing to learn how to do RIMA, we can do training for them to make sure that they are doing the analysis themselves. I can remember our exercise together with Niger, so the Institut National de la Statistique de Nigérian. They are working together with us. We are supporting them, providing them with do files and DTA and other type of support.
Okay, thank you, Marco. Just to add on this, because I think it's very important. Right. Thank you, Marco. Just to add on this, that is very important, coming back again to regional effort on the resilience, that we are supporting the resilience analysis unit both in West Africa and in East Africa. And in these analysis units, which are managed by IGAD and SEALS, there is a lot of discussion around the links between the implementation of Agile and SHARE and the related monitoring needs and the related analytical needs. Now I have so many questions, Marco. Let me ask you a couple of questions, maybe more on the technical side. One of the questions is resilience the exact opposite of vulnerability? And then another question is if you could be a bit more practical in telling how you integrate qualitative analysis into the quantitative analysis. Third one, still a bit technical. Are we able to distinguish between rural and urban household with RIMA?
Okay, thank you for the questions. And so I will start with the question from my friend Ibrahima on the vulnerability, on the relationship between vulnerability and resilience. The way we see, okay, there is a long literature, okay, it's a huge literature on resilience and resilience measurement and how resilience fits into vulnerability and how and vice versa. The way we see this is that resilience is vulnerability is composed by a combination of exposure to risk and resilience capacity. That is to say, so you are exposed, you live in an area which is particularly exposed to risk, and you are more or less vulnerable, more or less resilient. So in our view, in our perspective, it's not one the opposite side of the coin of the other. So resilience is a long-term perspective, which by vulnerability is much more linked to the exposure. So they are not completely overlapping, and they're not completely one the opposite side of the coin of the other. How do we integrate quantitative and qualitative? Well, it's not, let me say, it's not easy to integrate them, and the best way that we found to integrate these two approaches is to have the qualitative analysis done before. I will mention the example of the data collection that we did in Senegal, in Matam, where we had a qualitative data collection expert going and visiting Matam before we prepared our questionnaire. And based on that, we informed our questionnaire, and so that we could adapt our questionnaire to the context. And this is the first type of integration where you use the qualitative analysis to inform the quantitative data collection instrument. Then, once you have completed your resilience analysis through the quantitative data set, you can get back there and have other qualitative validation of the results that you are finding, and fine-tuning your results. Fine-tuning the capacity, the coping strategies capacity, for example, fine-tuning the econometric analysis based on what the real needs, the real capacities needs, or the real capacities coping strategies are, or based on what the real shocks are, based on the most frequent shocks that affected the population. So the qualitative analysis are absolutely crucial for obtaining a precise and punctual quantitative analysis. Finally, the question about rural and urban. Yes, we can, as much as we can, as long as we have a statistically significant representative database, we can do any disaggregation that we want, as long as we have enough data. This is the key element. So, if you think about the LSMS, for example, from the World Bank, this is a typically national-wide national representative database, which sometimes can be used for regional disaggregated analysis because the number of observations are sufficient for meeting the statistical requirements, but sometimes it's not. So if the numbers are there, we can do whatever we want. If the numbers are not there, we cannot do. We can just present the analysis, but we cannot draw statistically valid conclusions.
Now, I will ask you a quite tricky question. The question is as follows. You have a situation of low resilience of a given household or a given situation, and when you do the descriptive part of the analysis, you see that there are some variables which are particularly important for the resilience of that given household, productive assets. Now, as a decision maker, how I interpret this finding? Is it means that I have to invest more on the variable which are already strong and show to be important for the household, or I should on the contrary look for something where the household is particularly current or weak? How will you respond to this thing? Because the problem is the issue is how you are going to interpret a number. So the problem is very much on the analysis.
Okay, this is a very tricky question, as you as you mentioned, and thank you, Oriane, for asking this question. The reason why we created the second part of RIMA, that is to say, the part on the causal analysis, is exactly to answer this question. And in this case, it's not implemented through latent variable models. It is implemented through regression analysis. Therefore, if you have a regression analysis and it's saying that one coefficient is higher than another, then you have to invest in that coefficient because the effect on resilience is higher. But this is under a dynamic analysis, which is implemented through regression analysis. In the case of this example here, of the question that Oriane was mentioning, this is just the descriptive analysis. First, the descriptive analysis is a one-shot analysis. So it is something that I can do with a single data set. I go in the field today, I collect the data, I do the analysis, tomorrow I have the results, and the results are telling me that, what was the example? I don't know, a low resilience household, for a low resilient household, access to basic services is very much important. The only meaning that this information is giving us, the only meaning of this information is that in this specific moment, access to basic services is the most important in creating this level of resilience. In no way this is going to tell that if you invest more on this, or if you invest more on the less important, you are going to increase the resilience, because this is a static analysis. When you want to move into a dynamic analysis, as we are doing, you need to have regression analysis that is much more reliable and much more easy to digest and to understand.
Okay, Marco, thank you. I see some questions. On one question I want to answer directly, because it's about how the UN and FAO links with other international partners to coordinate initiative around the resilience measurement and how to measure impact. And this is something that we've been pursuing very much so through what we call the Global Technical Working Group on Resilience Measurement, which includes NGOs, which includes universities, which include donors, and it has become a sort of a platform for practitioners that works around the resilience measurement. This technical working group has defined a number of parameters to define what is the resilience measurement, how you go about the impact, and it has been inspiring a lot of the work that we have been doing, but not only our work, but also the work of other NGOs and things like this. And this is something that, which we continue to work on, because this is of fundamental importance. It's fundamental importance in the interest of national government, because otherwise they are just overwhelmed by too many different approaches and methods. And in addition to this, the second question, at the global level, I'm talking of the technical working group. When you come to the regional level, I think it's fundamental important to work with regional bodies like the SEALs and IGAD that can ensure the necessary coordination around the resilience measurement by all stakeholders, and also the contribution of different stakeholders. Now, there is still a couple of questions which I think are very important, Marco. There is an issue which is quite tempting. The idea of using thresholds to determine who is resilient and who is not resilient. We know that there's a number of attempts along this line that says, okay, 20% of the population is resilient and 30% is not resilient. How do we go about it? What is your point of view on this?
Thank you for this question, because it's a very tempting question, as you said, and I tend to laugh when I think about this question, because I think that all of you know that I work with Luca, no? So you can imagine a long list of sessions where Luca and I were sitting together and saying, we should find a way to do this, because it's tempting, no? It's very much important, and we can see around initiatives saying that this is a threshold for resilience. If you are below or above this threshold, you are resilient, you are not so far. Our approach is that if we are not statistically and scientifically sure about something, we are not going to promote this something. So at the moment, we don't have the capacity of saying any threshold. What we can do is that we can run our resilience analysis, obtain our resilience index, and we can divide it into tertiles, quantiles, and so we can say who is better off, who is worse off. This is what we can say. We cannot say, there is no statistical evidence ever that is going to say, if you reach a certain level of resilience, you will be certainly resisting the next shock that you will face. There is no way at now for doing this. We are doing all our efforts for doing this. We need panel data. We are currently having some panel data, so we are running our analysis as much as we can now.
Thanks, Marco. And this leads me to the next question, which is quite interesting, and it's concerning Ethiopia. Because in Ethiopia, the government has invested heavily in a social safety net, and with very good results. As you all know, Ethiopia has been hit by a very serious drought, so there are many more people in need, despite the fact that most probably they were resilient. But you see, when the drought is so strong, that then the resilience of the people is not there anymore. Now the question is, and there is an appreciation on this, the drought was extremely strong, but despite the severity of the drought, most of the people were able to cope. No one starved, unlike in previous drought. And this is due to people, both to people capacity, but also to the government capacity to put in place the right policy. So my question to you is, if you can answer, what is most important, the government policy and the government intervention of people capacity?
I don't know. Well, that's a very much interesting question. which I was thinking. I was thinking myself something similar from time to time, because and I'm happy that Sabina Tessitore joined the team now in this moment, because we'll be discussing about the fact that the quantitative measure is not the entire aspect, no? And there is one part of our capacity of resisting something which we will never be able to collect, to measure through quantitative analysis. It's something that is impossible to detect. No, it's something that can be connected to, I don't know, to social cohesion, to social capacity, to many other things, which are not included, are not includable in any of these quantitative measures. So I took a long road to answer very quickly. I don't know.
I was saying that when we talk of the PNSP, that is the Ethiopia program, in a way it was a precursor of resilience even before the term resilience was used into the development jargon. It was a program with a lot of innovation and a vision, because it was providing safety nets, at the same time helping people in building assets. So what I'm saying is that when you go with RIMA, maybe one of the things that RIMA can do is to help other countries to build context-specific similar program in other countries. But it's clear that the role of national institutions to build the overall resilience is of a fundamental importance in the framework of building resilience. Now, we have just a couple of additional questions. One is on social safety net. Apparently, I think one of the points which was not mentioned in your presentation, Mark, it was the one implemented by public authorities, so maybe you could briefly elaborate on this. And then the last one, which I think is a very interesting one, and is really what we are doing at the moment, to mention some example in which RIMA analysis has been utilized or will be utilized in national process of decision making.
Yes, thank you for both these questions, and thank you for those who answered this question, which I personally know. So first, about my omission of safety nets provided by local authorities is not on purpose. It's something that probably I didn't mention because I was rushing in the presentation. They are typically included in both our questionnaires and our analysis. Especially during in the analysis, because we typically find this type of information in the data set that we can use, and especially in the data set that we collect ourselves, because the social safety net is one of the pillars where I try to be more precise. So when we do the analysis ourselves, the data collection ourselves, we ask our local staff to review the questionnaire in order to make sure that we are including all the possible sources of transfers, all the possible sources of safety nets. Therefore, it's not something that we prepare ourselves. We just give them the draft, and then they fill this in the field, so that we are sure that we are including all the different public, non-public, formal, informal safety nets. And also we are exploring other tools for including as many safety nets as possible. So we are really doing all our efforts in including all the different aspects of safety nets. Regarding the second question, the question that Paulina asked, well, this is our main objective, to be able to provide information on food security and to make sure that the policymakers can adopt them. And I'm gonna mention the two examples that I was also presenting in this presentation, both in West Bank and Gaza Strip, where the original impact evaluation gave some inputs, some information based on which a project was then delivered, and also the example of Somalia, where our impact evaluation and our resilience report have been helpful in designing policy interventions and the project's implementation of WSP, UNICEF, and FAO, so that the situation, as we showed before, has improved quite a while.
if there are no further questions, I think we have basically come to the end, and we are in time in terms of the time. I've just to say a few things about the record. The session has been recorded from the beginning, or from the beginning. That's perfect. So it will be available. It will be available on the. We'll make it available and send it to the informed mailing list. And I would like also to announce the next seminar, which will be on Thursday, 7th of July, and it will be around Caisse de Résilience, which is a tool that FAO has been quite promoting, and with some important results. And I will also to ask you to provide us some feedback on how this session was conducted. That will be very helpful for us to improve the quality of the future webinar. So I think we can stop there. Thanking all of you. You are still 68, which is really very good. And thank all of you for your patience and for your participation. The questions were excellent. And see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Are you